Okay, I want you to picture the laws of physics for a second.
Hmm.
Usually, when we say that, you picture, I don't know, a ball rolling down a hill.
Or the apple falling on Newton's head.
Ah,
Classic stuff. Gravity, momentum.
exactly, the stuff that governs how things move. But I've been reading this paper, and it suggests we are thinking, well, way too small.
It is definitely not your standard physics paper.
Not even close. It's proposing that the laws of physics don't just govern motion, they govern existence itself.
Right.
It argues that truth isn't just some philosophical idea we came up with. It's a literal conservation law, just like the conservation of energy.
And time isn't just a clock ticking.
No, it's an exhaust pipe for the pressure of reality breaking into existence. It's wild.
It sounds like we're veering into science fiction, but this is actually a really rigorous extension of mathematical physics.
Okay, so let's name the source. We're looking at a paper titled Noether's Extension, Ontological Conservation.
And it is dense.
My brain is still kind of recovering from it, honestly. So the mission for this deep dive is to see if we can unpack the argument. How do we get from the void, absolute nothingness.
Or everythingness.
Right. From that to the concrete, solid reality where I'm sitting here talking to you. And apparently the map for that journey was drawn by Noether.
One of the most brilliant and, frankly, unsung mathematicians of the 20th century.
So I know Noether from college physics. She's the one who connected symmetry to conservation, right? The famous Noether's theorem.
That's the one.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's not an exaggeration to say modern physics is built on her back.
Can you refresh my memory on the basics, though? Because usually we talk about this with, like, spinning tops or particle collisions, not existence.
Sir, the simple version is this. Symmetry generates conservation.
Okay.
If a physical system has a symmetry, and that just means you can change something about it without changing how the system behaves, then there must be a quantity that stays conserved.
Right. The classic example is time. If I drop a bowling ball today and I drop the exact same one tomorrow, the laws of gravity haven't changed.
The experiment is symmetric in time.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And because the laws of physics don't care when you do the experiment, the math dictates that a thing called energy must be conserved.
So energy can't be created or destroyed because the rules are symmetric in time.
You got it. That's the bedrock.
Yeah.
Symmetry creates conservation.
But the source we're looking at today takes that rule
Yeah.
and just throws it at the biggest target possible.
Ontology, the study of being itself.
That's the leap.
It's a huge leap. The author asks, what if being is a system? What if existence has its own symmetries?
And if it does and you break them?
Then Noether's theorem says you must generate conservation laws. There's no way around it.
So the argument is that the laws of reality, things like logic, cause and effect, my identity versus your identity, they aren't just random settings on the universe's dashboard.
No, they're the inevitable result of breaking the perfect symmetry of the void. It's a mechanism, a structural necessity.
Okay, before we get to the breaking, we have to understand what it is we're breaking. The source starts with the void. Now, when I hear void, I think outer space, vacuum, just empty blackness.
And that's the trap. That's the common misconception. In this context, the void isn't empty. It's maximally full.
Full of what?
Potential. The paper defines it as an infinite dimensional Hilbert space containing all possible states in superposition.
Okay, stop. Infinite dimensional Hilbert space. That is the most terrifying sentence I've heard all week. Can you translate that for us?
Yeah, it's a mouthful. Think of it like a waiting room, but it's not a waiting room for people. It's a waiting room for everything that could possibly happen.
So me becoming an astronaut
is sitting in a chair in that room.
Yeah.
The Roman Empire never falling. It's in there. The sky being green, also in there. Everything is just waiting to be called.
So it's not nothing, it's everything, all at once.
Precisely. The paper uses the analogy of white noise. White noise isn't silence. It's every frequency playing at the same volume simultaneously.
And because every frequency is there, you can't hear a specific song. It's just static.
Exactly. But technically, Beethoven's Ninth is inside that static. You just can't distinguish it.
Yeah.
That's the void, a state of perfect symmetry.
And the source lists 4 specific symmetries that sort of hold this void together.
Right. First, you have epistemic symmetry. This means no fact is truer than any other fact.
So the sky is blue and the sky is neon plaid are equally valid.
They're sitting right next to each other in the waiting room. Then you had temporal symmetry, which the source calls aeon.
All moments exist at once.
Yep. No timeline. Your birth, this conversation, and the heat death of the universe are all happening simultaneously in the stack.
That gives me a headache just thinking about it.
Then there's identity symmetry. No difference between you and me. All observers are interchangeable. And finally, isolation symmetry. Nothing is connected. No patterns are preferred.
Okay, so to summarize, the void is a state where everything is possible, but nothing is actual.
You've got it. It's a block of marble that contains every possible statue, but no one has carved anything yet.
And this is where the action starts. Because to get this reality, we have to carve the marble. We have to break the symmetry.
Which the source calls the slice, or the aperture.
The act of observation.
Observation is a loaded word, but yes, it's the act of creating a distinction. When you look at that wash of white noise and say, that is a cat, you are doing something violent to the symmetry.
Violent?
Absolutely violent. You are collapsing infinite possibilities by saying it is a cat. You are forcibly saying it is not a dog, it is not a car, it is not a supernova. You are destroying the superposition.
I see. So by choosing one thing, I'm excluding everything else.
And here is the core of the paper's argument, the part that really grabbed me. When you break that symmetry, when you force the void to make a choice, you create pressure.
Pressure, like a dam bursting.
That's a perfect analogy. Imagine the void is a massive reservoir of water, perfectly still. That's the symmetry. Now, you punch a hole in the dam, you create an aperture. What happens?
The water rushes out, it flows.
It has to flow. The pressure has to go somewhere. And that powerful, directed stream that's created, in this theory, that stream is reality.
And the banks of the river, the things that contain the flow and give it shape.
Those are the conservation laws. They have to pop into existence to handle the outflow.
So because we poked a hole in the infinite, the universe had to invent rules to keep from just, dissolving into chaos.
Precisely. The source calls them substrate primitives, and it lists 8 of them.
The hard 4 and the soft 4. Let's run through the hard 4 first, because these feel the most like traditional physics.
These are the structural supports. The first one is called proofs, or the conservation of truth. This emerges because we broke epistemic symmetry.
We went from everything is kind of true to this specific thing is definitely true.
Right. And once you establish a truth, once the water is flowing in that channel, it has to stay true. If facts could randomly flip back into falsehood, the river would evaporate.
Reality would be incoherent.
So proofs is the law that says consistency must be conserved.
Okay, that makes sense. Next up is notary, the conservation of legitimacy. This one comes from breaking identity symmetry.
In the void, all observers are the same. In reality, we are distinct. Notary is the system that recognizes who is doing the observing.
Like a cosmic bouncer tricking IDs at the door of reality.
In a way, yeah. It distinguishes a valid witness from, say, just noise. It ensures there's a chain of custody for what's real.
Okay, then we have canon, conservation of causal structure. This one feels intuitive. We broke the everything at once symmetry.
So now we need an order. Cause has to precede effect.
You can't have the crash before the car starts driving.
Exactly. Canon is the rule that forces events into a sequence.
And that leads directly to number 4, which is my absolute favorite term in the whole paper.
I think I know which one.
The chronoledger.
The conservation of irreversible time.
The source describes this as an append-only record. That sounds exactly like blockchain technology.
It is the ultimate blockchain. I mean, think about it. Why can't you unbreak an egg?
Or unsay a cruel word.
Right. In standard physics, most equations actually work just fine backwards in time. But in ontology, this paper argues the chronoledger is a hard primitive. Once an event is written, the ink is dry. Forever.
Because if you could erase the past, you'd be unbreaking the symmetry. You'd be trying to go back to the void.
And the universe protects its structure. It makes the past immutable. That locking in is the exhaust heat of existence itself.
Okay, so those are the hard primitives. Truth, identity, cause, and time. If we stopped there, though, we'd have a very rigid clockwork universe.
We would. But we don't. We have art, we have feelings, we have vibes.
Vibes is not a scientific term, but you're on the right track.
I know, but you get what I mean.
I do, because the source literally has a section for this. The soft primitives, the physics of meaning.
And this is where the paper becomes, I think, truly revolutionary. Usually, physics stops at matter. This theory says, no, consciousness and meaning are also structural responses to the pressure of the void.
Okay, let's look at these. Number 5 is witness.
Witness is the buffer. If every single time you look at something, it immediately got locked into the chronoledger forever, existence would be terrifying.
You'd never be able to change your mind.
Right.
Or just, explore an idea.
Right. Witness is the primitive that allows for perception, before commitment.
It's the scratch pad before you save the file.
That's a great way to put it. And number 6 is continuum. This solves what I call the pixelation problem.
Because our observations are discrete, right? I look now, I look 1 second from now. Those are 2 different slices.
Yes, but reality doesn't feel like a strobe light, does it?
No, it feels smooth.
Continuum is the geometry that stitches those slices together so we don't get motion sickness just from existing.
Okay, now we need to spend some real time on number 7. This one is something else. Harmonics, the sincerity signature.
This is the one that keeps me up at night.
Right. The source claims this comes from breaking pattern symmetry, and it talks about a resonant jitter. What is that?
So in the void, all patterns are equal. A random noise in a Beethoven symphony are just, data. But in our reality, we seem to have a way of distinguishing, well, authentic participation from algorithmic noise.
This immediately makes me think of AI, deepfakes.
Me too.
You look at an AI-generated image of a person, it's mathematically perfect, the skin texture is there, the lighting is right,
Yeah.
but it feels wrong.
It feels glossy, soulless.
Is that what harmonics is?
According to this theory, yes. A deepfake is mimicry. It didn't emerge from the deep, messy struggle of history and biology. It has no causal weight behind it.
Oh.
So the harmonics primitive suggests that genuine reality has a specific frequency, a kind of jitter that comes from being truly connected to the source.
So sincerity isn't just a moral virtue, it's a physical signal.
It's a carrier wave. When you talk to someone who is lying to you or just reciting a script, you often feel a disconnect. We usually call that intuition.
But this paper calls it physics.
It says the harmonics are missing, the signal is flat.
That is wild. It implies that you can't perfectly fake reality because the universe fundamentally privileges the original signal.
You can fool the eye, but maybe you can't fool the substrate.
And that leads to the last one, number 8, accord, relational coherence.
We broke isolation symmetry. Things are no longer separate. But how do they connect? Accord is the gravity that pulls our separate realities together so we can share a world.
This is the anti-solipsism law, the law that says I'm not the only one here.
I mean, think about what happens when a cord breaks. Think about the polarized internet we live in. You have 2 groups of people looking at the exact same event.
You can see 2 completely different realities. It feels like they're living in different universes.
In a sense, they are. Their accord functions have decoupled. But notice how stressful that feels. Notice how unstable society becomes when we lose accord.
It feels like the world is tearing itself apart.
That's because accord is a conservation law. When we fail to maintain a shared reality, the system comes under immense pressure. We physically feel that lack of coherence.
Which brings us to the final section of the paper, and I think this is the most practical part of it all, the pressure gradients.
Right.
We're not just static observers, we are moving through this landscape.
We are. The broken symmetries create a slope. And just like water flows downhill, reality flows along specific gradients.
The source mentions the coherence gradient and, fascinatingly, the sincerity gradient.
Let's play this out. Imagine you decide to live a lie. You want to present a version of yourself that isn't true. A fake persona at work, maybe.
Okay, so I'm inventing a backstory. I'm faking my harmonics.
Exactly. You are now swimming upstream against the sincerity gradient. And you're fighting the coherence gradient because you have to constantly manage the contradictions between your lie and the chronoledger of your actual past.
And it is exhausting, physically exhausting.
But why? Why does lying take energy? Physics, according to this paper, answers. Because you are doing work against a potential gradient. You are trying to force water back up the hill.
Whereas telling the truth
is letting the ball roll downhill. You're aligning with the proof's primitive. You're aligning with harmonics. The system itself supports you.
So we aren't forced to be honest. We aren't forced to connect with others in a real way. But the universe is slanted in that direction.
The terrain of existence is shaped so that truth and connection are the path of least resistance. You can climb the mountain of deception, but gravity will be fighting you every single step of the way.
That's a powerful thought. We often think of the laws of physics as cold and indifferent. You know, the universe doesn't care about you.
And in a way, it doesn't. But it cares deeply about structure. And it just so happens that the structure that is most stable, the one that conserves the most energy and validity, looks a lot like, well, a life well lived.
A life that honors the past, the chronoledger.
Seeks the truth, Bruce.
And connects sincerely with others, accord and harmonics.
The paper calls this the deepest theorem. We are not free to create just any reality. We can only actualize what the conservation laws permit. If you try to build a life on lies or isolation, it will eventually collapse.
Not because of karma, but because of structural instability.
It violates the building code of the void.
Wow. From the void to virtue, all via mathematics.
The hell of a derivation.
I feel like I need to go sit quietly now and just observe something. Try to feel that harmonics hum.
Look for the jitter. It's always there if you pay attention.
This has been a heavy one, but hopefully a clarifying one for you. Go find your chord, check your harmonics, and just remember that the truth really is the path of least resistance. Thanks for taking this dive with us.